Chaos is my 4.5-year-old boxer. We got him at about 24 weeks, just shy of 6 months. But unfortunately, his breeder hadn't done any early socialisation with him. He grew up on a rural property, so he hadn't been exposed to the sounds of suburbia. He'd never worn a collar. He'd never met a dog who wasn't his family. And he hadn't really seen people other than his breeder's family. Thankfully, he was a happy-go-lucky pup, but he really lacked confidence and he coped with stress by fooling around, by jumping up, or by rolling on his back. I remember the first time we tried to get him to walk on a lead, it was like he melted into the ground. But by far his most difficult behaviour was how he reacted to other dogs. He'd bounce, spin, scream, and pretty much mimic the movement of a mechanical bull. He'd do this to all dogs regardless of their size, even if they were 100 metres away, and completely ignoring him. If you feel like you've tried everything to help your reactive dog, let me know in the comments. And please know you're not alone. Chaos's behaviour had triggered my own anxiety. Every time we approached a blind corner, I could feel my chest getting tight and my heart racing. Thankfully, I was aware of it, so at least I didn't tense up on the lead and make things worse. But regardless, it wasn't a nice feeling. I felt like I was on the verge of panic every time we stepped out our front door. Now, of course we played training games, but alongside that, one of the key pieces of the puzzle was changing our equipment to help change the picture. So in this video, I'm gonna go through what I take on walks and how you too can change your reactive dog's story by changing what a walk means for them. I'll also give you a progress report on Chaos later in the video, so make sure you stick around to the end. Now, for many dogs, their reactivity isn't just towards a specific villain. For many dogs, it's not like they only ever react to black dogs. For most dogs, it's much more complicated than that. There's a combination of factors that form a trigger picture for them. For some dogs, the equipment we use can play a role in building this trigger picture. And I'm not just talking about tools that cause pain or discomfort. Any equipment can inadvertently be trained to shape behaviour. Guide dog trainers know this intimately. They use it strategically in their training to let the dog know when it's work time and when they're free to just go off and be a dog. I'll never forget when my sister worked at a childcare centre. One of the parents used a guide dog, and for some reason this one day they had taken his harness off and let him run loose. Well, this angelic guide dog proceeded to chase the centre's chickens round and round the yard, and he couldn't be recalled off them. This dog's equipment, or lack of equipment, clearly signalled the behaviour that he should do in certain circumstances. So what has this got to do with reactive dogs? Well, in the same way that a guide dog's harness can be used to cue calm focus, for some dogs, their equipment is a cue to be on edge because something bad might happen. Their walking equipment goes on, it jacks up their arousal, and it increases their vigilance. If you've got a dog like this, you've probably seen it 100 times before. They start scanning for danger right from the get-go. They'll start barking at triggers before you were aware that there was anything there. So what can we do? We can actually help to change the trigger picture by changing the equipment we use. Invest in equipment that's going to help set you up for success. Now, this is not a silver bullet. Equipment alone will not fix a dog's reactivity. And if we change the equipment, but we just keep sticking them in situations where they can't cope, you can bet all that predictive strength is going to get carried over into the new equipment as well. It's the combination of new equipment and creating a picture of safety that helps retrain the brain. If a dog is not expecting bad things to happen, then they're much calmer and they're much more receptive to training games compared to a dog who is hyper-vigilant right on the edge of their threshold. So what did I use to help reframe our walks? Well, the very first thing we did was switch Chaos from a collar to a Y-shaped harness with 2 points of contact. I've got a whole video coming out next month explaining why I used this design, but in a nutshell, it gives free movement of the shoulder girdle and it gives us full control of their center of mass. And if there is ever any tension that goes through the lead, it goes through their center of mass, not into their throat. Plus, a Y-shaped harness is much harder for them to back out of if they do ever get spooked. One of my favourites is the Stylish Hound chest plate harness. They're an amazing Australian company and lots of their gear is made from recycled materials. I'll pop a link in the description below with a discount coupon. Make sure you go and check them out. I also use a double-ended lead. Similar to a horse, I like to have those 2 points of contact. Again, Stylish Hound do a great double-ended lead. It is a little bit stiff, but if you want something robust, then this is it. Another great option is the Company of Animals Multifunction lead. It's softer and narrower than the Stylish Hound one, and I like that because I can put multiple loops over my fingers and shorten the lead and it doesn't get bulky. Now, with reactive dogs, it is so beneficial for them to use their nose. As they sniff, it lowers their heart rate and boosts beneficial neurochemicals. Some dogs will do this naturally. You just clip on a Longline and give them the freedom to sniff and explore. They'll meander about and have a great time. But with other dogs, they're gonna need a little bit more help. You'll know if you've got one of these dogs because they're not really taking information when they're sniffing, they're just frantically pinging from place to place. These dogs really benefit from calming games, things like scatter feeding and scent games. I'll pop a link here with some ideas. Now, using a Longline can really help encourage sniffing. 2 Longlines that I use are the Company of Animals training lead and this one. It's unbranded, but it's really good quality and it's got a rubberized grip running down the center. I think this one's about 15 to 20 meters long. I also have a biothane Longline and I don't really like it. The moment it gets even slightly wet, it becomes really slippery and really hard to handle. I don't like it, but that's just me. The other thing I would never be without with reactive dogs are treats and a good quality treat pouch. I love this one because it's silicone, it's sturdy, it is dishwasher safe, and it is great for greasy foods. I've even used raw chunks of meat in it. There's a link in the description below if you want to check it out. When it comes to treats, something to consider. If your dog has had lots of reactivity episodes with one particular type of food, then consider switching it out to help change the picture. Just like equipment, smells and tastes can become associated with bad things happening. I want something that is high value but also healthy. If I'm playing a scent game, then something like a piece of tripe stick is perfect. But if I'm scatter feeding or playing training games, then something like Prime 100 cut into chunks is perfect. I'm not affiliated with Prime 100 in any way, I just really like their products. It's also a complete dog food, so I can take my dog's entire breakfast or dinner on a walk with me and I don't need to worry about how many calories they're consuming. So that's the stuff I take on walks to help change the picture. For some dogs, changing the equipment is the first step to changing how they feel about the world. So what about Chaos? Well, he sure has come a long way from the bouncing, spinning, mechanical bull that we started with. In fact, Chaos will often come to me to my group classes and he'll play the role of stooge dog for other reactive dogs. Changing his equipment was a really important piece of his puzzle. And looking back, I'm actually really glad that we've been on this journey together. He's taught me so much. Patience, empathy, and he's helped me get so much more creative with my training. So now you know how to use equipment to help change your dog's trigger picture, but what about how to change the environment to help create an entirely new picture? This video will answer just that question. When it's ready, it's coming soon. So make sure you hit subscribe so the YouTube tech fairies can let you know when it's out. In the meantime, watch this video next because it'll tell you exactly what to do in the moment if your dog is reacting.